Tonight on Treasure Detectives, the godfather of soul returns to the spotlight. This is James Brown's cape.
Oh, no way.
James Brown's cape.
You just don't come across capes of James Brown. You know, it's kind of like the holy grail of soul music.
Do you think somebody would be able to take this and copy it?
They could try to copy it, but...
Is it possible that this could be a reproduction?
And a guitar legend's legacy.
A Gibson Les Paul. It's going to be worth up to $500,000.
Takes an unexpected turn.
That would have been really simple for somebody to stick that on there. And
But they wouldn't have known to do it.
There's a couple little marks.
There's a couple little dings.
That could have slipped through the cracks.
You got a lawsuit on your hands.
I've flown to Connecticut to meet Clem Baleares. Now, he thinks he's got one of James Brown's famous capes he wore on stage. Now, this is quite exciting because if he has, this is a piece of music history that he owns.
Come on in.
Thanks very much. Look like you've been collecting all your life.
Yep, all my life.
Music being a passion, obviously.
And this is a prize I got, is James Brown's cape.
James Brown's your favorite, I assume?
Yeah, I would say the most influential, put it that way. My name is Clem. My passion from James Brown comes from the very beginning. I saw him live, and then I started listening to the words in the song and how hard he worked, and the passion that he had influenced me for the passion I have in life.
So how long you had it?
Since December '06. That was 2 weeks before he died. But the cape, to me, is also simple of do it again. No matter how good it is, do it again. Nobody was waiting for the show to end. They're waiting for him to throw that thing the hell off him, do the camel walk, which is Michael Jackson's moonwalk, and then when he was done, do a split. Then he'd come back, another cape would go on, whatever. But that's the passion of the cape, is like, keep on going.
So does that mean you're in the music industry?
I owned a nightclub when I bought this cape. All the memorabilia on my walls here are all at the bar, you know?
This was in the club too?
Oh, yeah.
What's going to happen to this? What's the plan of action?
I want to sell the cape. I would take that money and put it towards the entertainment to go on the road and do benefits. Fundraiser to help kids. And do it once in Boston, one in Provincetown, one in New York City. This thing doesn't end, even if I don't own it.
That's fabulous. See, now, to me, it looks exactly what you think it is. It looks old. But all these things are easy to age. What we need to find out is this really a cape that James Brown wore? Even though you can do physical tests on something like this, it will be about the stories behind it that make it worth the fortune it could be. And you never know, you could be back on the road in no time at all. If it turns out not to be real, then it's just an interesting item. We'll keep you informed as we go along.
I appreciate it.
Items like this are notoriously easy to fake. In 2012, a man from Oregon was sentenced to 2 years in prison for selling fake items that he said came from the Beatles themselves. We are going to have to be extra vigilant with this investigation. Connecticut looks like England, to be honest, and I didn't realise it was so close to New York. OK, first item, ladies and gentlemen, today. Fascinating. This is James Brown's cape.
Oh, no way.
James Brown's cape.
How cool is that as a story?
The godfather of soul.
That's very cool.
Now,
That's fun.
this is Clem. His house is just full of memorabilia. He owned a nightclub until relatively recently. Now, he's thinking about selling this cape because he wants to raise money to take his nightclub on the road to do benefits.
Oh, wow.
To help people. So this cape means a lot to him personally, but it also means a lot to him financially now. $35,000 if it turns out to be the real thing. There's so many James Brown impersonators. Who says James Brown wore this actual cape? That's the difference. Now, one thing we know about James Brown, he wasn't the tallest man in the world, was he?
Never say somebody's not tall, because I'm not tall.
I think James Brown was smaller than you.
No.
I think he was.
That's how he was?
That's
The
a guess.
godfather of soul?
Yeah, because his shoes always look like that to me.
So, yeah, we need to find out, you know, his measurements and everything.
Yeah. 3 elements of the cape we'll be looking at are: when do these materials date from? Are they easily available today? The markings. Are there any records of him wearing this cape with the term godfather? The provenance. If he wore it on stage, surely someone would remember it. This could be one of James Brown's capes that he actually wore on stage.
Wow.
That's so cool.
That is cool, isn't it? You seem excited about this one?
I am excited about this one.
Then this is yours, Hutch.
All right.
All yours.
Sounds good to me.
He feels good. Sorry. Come on, look, I work on these things. I come up with these things. I sit there, I think, I've got to say something. So,
Right. Anything else on the table today, folks?
yes. A 2002 Gibson Les Paul custom,
Right.
which is reported to have been owned by Les Paul.
Really?
Wow.
2002 was the 50th anniversary of when he started making guitars with Gibson.
Okay.
And they used to give him guitars, you know, every year, but this one could be very special.
Who owns it then?
It's owned by a guy called Max.
Okay.
He bought it at Les Paul's estate sale. Max thinks this guitar is worth $500,000.
Get out of town.
That's awesome.
An Eric Clapton Stratocaster sold at auction for $497,000.
So what makes it special?
Max believes that this guitar is the guitar that Les Paul was holding on the front cover of Les Paul's autobiography.
Les Paul owned an awful lot of guitars. Now, a lot of these guitars were featured with him on magazine covers and book covers. To be very special, it would have to be Les Paul's favourite, and then there's a good chance it could be worth $500,000. Catherine, you're the musician. Take your little Oppo, Mr. Smith, with you on guitars.
Will do.
Shall we, crack on?
Let's. Come on, then. Time for a cup of tea first?
No, not today.
Oh.
I'll grab you something to go, love.
What are you going to get me?
You like those latte things, don't
Oh,
you?
those American
No,
lattes.
he calls it a latte.
It is a latte.
We have guests. Hello, come in, come in.
Hi. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Today I'm meeting Max, and he might have a very rare guitar owned by a musical pioneer. OK. There's a guitar case.
It is indeed a guitar case. Yes, it is.
And inside it is...
Ah, well, inside of it is Les Paul's Les Paul. This was the one that was on the cover of his one and only autobiography, Les Paul in his own words.
Les Paul was a legendary guitarist. He had numerous top 10 hits, but also he was an inventor of guitars, credited with inventing the modern-day electric guitar, used by almost everybody in the rock music industry for the last 50 years, which means his guitars, especially ones he loved and played, are potentially worth a fortune.
By the way, when I handle this, we always wear curator gloves.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes, truly.
Yeah, it is a lovely
Yeah,
guitar.
it is beautiful.
This was made and presented to Les Paul special in 2002.
When was this guitar first started in production?
1954.
What's the story of it coming into your hands, then?
I'm a guitar collector. When Les passed away, their estate decided to liquidate his equipment, and this guitar was sold as white guitar. They didn't recognize it.
And you thought it was something special?
I knew it was something special.
Who catalogued the sale?
Julian's Auctions hired.
good.
The problem is that they were not from Les's inside track.
How many people at the auction?
Hundreds.
And no one else recognised it?
That's right. Well, the thing is, people have a tendency to take things on face value. If you look in their catalog, this was there as white Les Paul, and that's what they sold it as, but I recognized it. And I have the book here,
There he
That's
is.
the picture.
and there it is.
Does this guitar have any distinguishing marks?
Very much so, and that's how I knew what it was. The fact is that Les Paul could not play a stock guitar out of the factory. He didn't like the way it felt. He would have them refretted to his liking, and that's the way this guitar is.
So if I went and bought this guitar, would that look then completely different to that?
Absolutely, the frets would. Also, these markers here, they're made out of mother of pearl.
Very pretty.
If you'll notice on the book, there are other photographs of this guitar. It's well known. The coloring, the markings, the angles, they literally line up perfectly. These are Les's actual notes on the guitar.
Yeah.
He refers to this guitar as G180.
That would have been really simple for somebody to stick that on there. And
But they wouldn't have known to do it. The only people that would have known this is Les's inner people.
But they're the ones, generally, I'm afraid, that we always end up catching out. So how much do you pay for it?
$8,000.
Well, that says one of two things. It either says you got a bargain,
I sure did.
or you didn't.
Or I
Because-
didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose
How
so.
much do you think it could be worth?
Heard numbers is upwards of high six figures, $1 million. There's not another one like this. It's very hard to find its exact value.
What do you want to do with it?
I think ultimately we look to sell it.
What happens if this isn't real?
Well, I would certainly be disappointed. I mean, certainly. It is a Les Paul owned guitar, and it's worth maybe twice what I paid for it.
Listening to your story, you're a big fan.
Indeed.
And if this is what you think it is, that becomes important to other Les Paul fans.
Indeed it does.
That in itself surely matters just as much as the money.
That does.
There's certainly a lot to think about here. There's a lot at stake here as well, I think. So
Indeed.
we won't leave any stone unturned. While Hutch is continuing his journey with the James Brown cape, Andy and Catherine are with Max, working on his Les Paul guitar. The three elements we'll be investigating on it are the construction. Les Paul always customised his guitars. Is this customised the way Les would have done it? The mother of pearl. Are they unique or could they be faked? The provenance. Can anyone verify if this was a special gift to Les from Gibson?
Today I'm on my way to FNS Fabrics to meet Chuck Marceau, who's a costume designer, and he knows a lot about fabrics. Hi, Chuck.
Oh, hey, you have to be Hutch, right?
Hutch, hi, nice to meet you.
Good
How
to see
doing?
you.
Capes were a significant part of James Brown's routines, and he had a lot of them. The next step is to get an analysis of the fabric and the build of the cape to see if it's performance quality and the same kind of build that James Brown used in his routines.
Oh, wow. Who was the godfather?
James Brown was known as the godfather of soul.
Oh, well, that's cool. My name's Chuck Marceau, and I work here at FNS Fabrics. I was a professional costume maker for 20 years here in Los Angeles. This is quite old. Well, it looks like actually 3 different fabrics. This is an eyelash fabric, and it was used in the 70s.
Why do they call this eyelash?
It's like eyelashes on the eyes. It stands up. All these little metallic fibers stand up, so when the light hits it under stage lights, it's going to be awesome.
Why do you think this is 70s eyelash fabric instead of eyelash fabric from today?
Today's looks more metallic. This has it's just more of a crystal look to it. And this is a rayon velvet. It's actually in pretty good condition still. And the lining is an acetate. And I noticed there's some perspiration, a lot here.
Well, he used to sweat a lot in his concerts and his shows. Now, are any of these materials still available today?
This one, the eyelash is very hard to find. It's a vintage piece of fabric.
How much would it cost today for that?
Anywhere from $50 to $90 a yard.
Okay.
The fabrics aren't new, so that's a real indication that it may be authentic.
So if an impersonator today wanted to have a cape exactly like this, would it be very costly for that person to make it?
Oh, wow. It would be, we're talking a few grand, maybe more than $10,000 to start.
Over $10,000 to make one cape.
It could be double that.
And James Brown was known for having multiple capes in his act. So if he used 5 capes in an act and the impersonator wanted to use five, we're looking at $50,000.
Easy.
What we're doing today, we're going to pop in and see Norm. Here we are.
Andy, Max, and I are going to Norm's Rare Guitars to find out more about the history of Les Paul, the man and the instrument. Hi, you must be Norm.
My name is Norman Harris, and all I do is buy and sell vintage and collectible guitars, as well as pro-quality guitars.
So we're here because Max has what he thinks is Les Paul's personal guitar.
Max believes this was a special one-of-a-kind 50th anniversary gift from Gibson to Les Paul.
And we think it's either the find of the century or it's just another Les Paul.
We go ahead and get it out?
Let's take a look.
Okay, I have curator gloves here for you, Norm, inside the
Okay.
case.
I'll be happy
kind enough to-
I'll put them on. So let's see what you have here. It looks like a white Les Paul custom. Obviously, it's been refretted.
You said about it'd been refretted.
Refretted. Now, you can see how the frets slightly overlap the binding here.
Right.
On a standard model that was done at the factory, it would meet up right with the binding. This, you can see, was added. Les created this Les Paul model with Gibson, and there's a number of different variations of the model. This is the custom, which was the highest of the several models that they made. Had the ebony fingerboard here with the block inlays, the diamond inlay up on the headstock, and gold plating. Here's the thing, everything on this guitar, aside from the fact that it has been refretted, is regular production. And the year would be 2002.
How did you know straight away that was 2002?
The serial number is the first and fifth number. And if I may, I'd like to grab another
yeah,
guitar
please do.
that's very similar to this on this guitar, which is almost identical to that guitar. And we're asking $2,699 for the guitar. This is a standard guitar that they make quite a few of. There's not a lot of unique factors to this guitar. The real value in memorabilia is how associated it is with the artist. It would be speculation to say the guitar is worth $100,000, $200,000. It's going to just be how bad one person wants it and if he's willing to outpay the next person. If you could see Les holding the guitar and you saw the mother of pearl and that kind of thing.
I think at this point what we really need to do is see if the mother of pearl inlays match up with the guitar Les Paul's holding on his autobiography picture.
And the more that he's known for it, the more people are going to want it.
Hi there, I'm Catherine.
Jeremy Shepard.
Nice to meet you, Jeremy. We've got the guitar upstairs.
My name is Jeremy Shepard. I am the founder and CEO of PearlParadise.com. I operate the world's largest online pearl company.
Well, here's the guitar.
This could be the 50th anniversary Les Paul guitar.
Okay.
If it's one of a kind, it could be worth up to $500,000.
Wow.
First, we have to establish if this is the 50th anniversary model on the cover of the autobiography. But we'll still have to find out if this is a one-of-a-kind item and if it was one of Les Paul's favourites. What we're trying to see is if these fretboard markers, the mother of pearl, match to a picture of guitar which is on the front cover of the autobiography.
Mother of pearl, each piece is going to have sort of its own fingerprint. Mother of pearl is the same substance that the oyster shell is composed of. Every piece is going to be unique. Every piece is going to have its own fingerprint. It's almost like a snowflake or a fingerprint. No two pieces are going to be exactly alike. Okay. So what you can see is when you lean to one side and lean to another, the colors start to change a little bit. It's inlaid, as you can see. As you can see that it's flush with the surface. You can see that you've got 3 little nodules in there.
Yeah.
Now, if you go back to this photograph here, you can see 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah.
3 nodules that appear to be in the exact same places. If we were to go on to a different side, it starts to change.
When I look at it from this angle, it doesn't match up.
Exactly.
The angle that I'm at with the way the light's hitting it and everything, I don't see all of those ridges. It doesn't look like the same one in this picture.
You have to either be from here or here to really match up the exact same picture. And that's because of the light diffraction.
The guitar appears to be the one in the picture, but was it one of Les Paul's favourites? That's what will drive up the price. Brilliant.
We've got a little bit more work to do, I think, Mr. Smith.
Are you done?
You must be Hutch.
How you doing?
Nice to see you.
So I'm here with the James Brown cape for you to take a look at.
Let me show what we got.
So today I'm here in Augusta, Georgia to meet with Don, who's a James Brown biographer, but also the curator here at the Augusta Museum of History.
This is getting into what I call the great room about James. Here's where all the wonderful costumes and all the posters and everything are. You know, this right here is another classic example of his stage outfit. He loved flashy things.
Did he wear capes on a daily basis? Or
No, it's only for show. I don't know if you know how the capes came about, but it started with a show in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He was doing the show with B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland, the great rhythm and blues singer. He was going off stage and somebody threw a towel over him. And he threw the towel off, and apparently the audience went crazy. And James told me that's where he got the idea from capes from. Now, what I really want to do is I want to see this cape you've got.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, let's take a look at it.
I've never even touched a cape. Oh, wow, that's absolutely beautiful. This is such a different cape because of the style.
So our client Clem went to the Dick Clark auction and bid on this cape and won it. Now, did Dick Clark and James Brown, did they have any kind of connection?
Oh, without a doubt. You know, Dick Clark was one of the first television hosts to put black artists on television on a regular basis. James did an American Bandstand that Dick Clark had. James and Dick were very close. What in the world are you going to show me now?
You ready for it?
Yeah. Wow. This tells you a little bit about the age here. It's got Godfather. That dates the cape because it's definitely not a 60s cape. It's got to be at least into the 70s because James did a movie called Black Caesar in 1973, and there was a character in the movie that they referred to as the Godfather. He was like an underworld mafia kind of guy, and so that's where James got the idea of calling himself the Godfather of Soul. This cape probably had to come from when he was going through this Godfather of Soul stage in the 70s.
Have you ever seen a cape for sale?
Never. I've never seen a cape for sale. He told me in 1985, when he told me the history of capes, that he only had 3 of them at that time. You just don't come across capes of James Brown. You know, it's kind of like the holy grail of soul music.
Have you seen any examples of this cape at all?
I think I've got a video that you'd be interested in seeing. This was taken of James in 1979 on stage. This video here is taken at a concert, and you notice this cape here says very similar in how it looks. The only difference is that's red and this is black. You know, the person you really need to go talk to about this cape, if it's real or not, is Deanna Brown Thomas, his daughter, who kept working to keep his memory alive. And the other person, of course, is Danny Ray, who is the cape man himself.
Don just gave me a great lead. If anybody was able to tell us whether or not this was James Brown cape, it would be the man who put capes around James's shoulders every night, the Cape Man.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
You must be Tom.
Tom, I'm Curtis. Today we're meeting with Tom Doyle. Now, he was Les Paul's sound engineer for decades. And what I want to know from Tom is, can he recognize anything specific about this guitar to show that Les Paul played it? And just as importantly, loved it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, well, this is a nice guitar.
Allegedly, Les Paul's guitar given to him by Gibson.
For his 50th anniversary working with Gibson. Now, you were a guitar tech for Les, right?
Oh, yes, Catherine, I was for many years. My name is Tom Doyle. I did a number of things for Les. I worked with him and stayed with him for 27 years doing the sound. But I wasn't just an engineer. I worked on many, many guitars for him. I know what Les's wants and needs were when he wanted to play an instrument.
So what are you looking for?
I'm looking for scrape marks, any marks of playing. I do see that. It has a little bit of a bow in it, which is certainly adjustable. That's in very good shape. That means it was well kept. This one is only set up for Les.
How can you be sure?
First of all, there's a refret on this fingerboard because he liked to have frets that actually went over the binding. Nobody would make this kind of fret job unless Les would play a guitar like that.
But couldn't have these changes been made just by somebody else?
I don't think so. The most important guitars he began to number. Those are his numbers right there, G180.
Which corresponds with?
Yes. He would tell what he liked or disliked about the guitar on the labeling.
And this is his handwriting?
Absolutely right.
Do you recognize it?
This is the guitar that's on the front cover of In Les Paul's, in his own words. This was played for me in Les Paul's house. These little stains, the day I saw Les playing this, he actually cut his cuticle, and I believe those are actually the blood stains from his finger. Believe me, I remember these things because my mind is into guitars. We could look right inside of this cavity, and if it says for Les in that cavity, we know that this is definitely the guitar I'm talking about. Well, I saw it because he had the pickup out.
So no one else would have seen it?
I don't think so.
If you were faking this guitar, that's what I'm asking.
No, you would not know it's there. Is it there? I don't know. I have to loosen the strings to do that and pull it out. Are we going to be doing that?
Do it.
Do it. Okay, all right.
Do it.
I'm going to loosen these strings.
Why would that have been put under there, then?
If you're going to send it to the man who designed the guitar, you want to make sure it stays the same guitar in the production of being made, right? And that's the reason for that. If it's there, let's look. This is the key to this. hold this above it. I don't want to scratch the guitar. Can everybody?
Oh. There it is.
He had this pickup out, and he was looking, checking, could he fit coils in here with the size that he was making.
So if you were a forger and you were trying to con the public,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have known about that.
No way, and I wouldn't have known about it unless it was a part in front of me.
There's no doubt that this was a real Les Paul guitar owned by Les Paul. The problem here is it worth $500,000? Now, if this Les Paul guitar turns out to be Les Paul's favourite out of the hundreds he owned, it could be worth $500,000.
Hi, are you Chris?
Yes, Sam.
Nice to meet you, Chris. Thank you.
Chris, I'm Andy. Nice to meet you. Shall we go and have a sit down? Chris Lentz was involved with Les Paul's estate, so he should be able to tell me whether this was one of Les Paul's favourite guitars. I mean, he's as knowledgeable about Les Paul's as I am about ex-wives.
What we've got is a white Les Paul guitar. Here it is, if you hold it this way.
You were involved with the auction, weren't you?
Right, I inventoried Les's estate, so it took me 2 years to inventory every guitar, and Les had about maybe 800 guitars.
Wow. But there's a note on the case of
Right.
the guitar, you know, that has some little side notes like that, too.
But that's on almost every guitar in Les's collection.
Okay.
So if you open a case of any of his guitars, there was a little note attached talking about the guitar itself, whether the frets were buzzing or the pickups weren't working properly, or he just didn't like the guitar or liked it.
But on that one, it doesn't say any reference to a very special guitar.
Right. Yeah, I think they particularly used this guitar because in that particular photograph of the book, Les is in a black tuxedo, so it offset the black and white. So a nice combination together.
So it wasn't a guitar that he specifically played a lot, that kind of thing?
No, not at all, no. He was always aware of advertising for the company, and he was allowed to have several Gibsons every year. And Les would just try to check on the quality of Gibson and the guitar company itself.
So have you got some a book of the auction?
Yes, let me get the book.
So this is a catalog from that estate auction?
From Julian's auction
Okay,
house,
great.
correct.
So is this, are there more than one white guitar in there?
There were 2 other white customs.
And were they all look like that, don't
Similar,
they?
yes. Yeah.
That's not the one that we're looking into.
So is this the model
There
we're
she
talking
is.
That one there.
So that's the one.
That's the one.
Right.
On this guitar, there's a few little spots down here by the pickups, and they're thought to maybe be Les's blood.
Somebody saw him strum, nick his finger, and the blood dripped on there, and it wasn't cleaned off.
It could have happened, but would they really sell a guitar with blood drippings on it at an auction?
And
I'm not quite sure.
If it was Les Paul's blood, yes, they would leave it on there, because all of a sudden then, that's like Picasso's fingerprint on the back of one of his paintings.
Gotcha.
Pushes up the value of something. So, but I can't see anything on there. So unless they've used Photoshop on that, that could be
Right.
explained away.
So there's a few little spots of blood on the guitar that are supposed to be Les Paul's, which is a really cool story, or it could have been added to make it more exciting for the buyer.
It was just used for the photo shoot. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything special about this guitar.
Awesome, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've definitely given us plenty of information.
I'm really excited right now. I'm about to meet Deanna Brown Thomas, James Brown's daughter.
Hi, Hutch.
Hi, nice to meet you. How you
Nice to meet you. Welcome to CH Terrell Academy. This is the James Brown Academy of Music people, so we're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Deanna runs the James Brown Academy of Music, and today we're going to examine the cape with none other than Danny Ray, the Cape Man. How you doing, Mr. Danny Ray?
Hey, Uncle Danny. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm Hutch. How you doing?
Danny Ray, how you doing?
Looking sharp, Danny.
Oh, man, trying to keep it together here, you know.
Danny Ray was James Brown's MC for many, many years. Danny would come on stage during the performances of Please, Please, Please and throw one of James's many capes around his shoulders. First-hand eyewitness account carries a lot of weight when we're trying to judge authenticity. So you teach children how to play music here?
Music education, that was something that had a special place in my dad's heart. And we are teaching some young kids, and we are only blocks away from where the Godfather was raised.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really
Yeah.
cool to
Yeah.
hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kate Man, how did you get the name Kate Man?
Oh, man, this is going back a while now. I started working with him as a valet, you know, started taking care of him. I always had his Turkish towel, you know, Turkish robe, you know, that I like to have, you know. And I would catch him with this, you know, put the towel on him, and the fans still hollering, James Brown, James Brown. He was to come back some more, and he'd go back and stand there almost bow and then throw it off and go back, and I just wait back there, you know. So we did it 2 or 3 times. And so after we did it a few times, he said, Mr. Ray, you know what? We got to make that part of the show. He said,
So the towel in the audience is what inspired him to start wearing that cape.
He had a flair for fashion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, he did. Everything was tailor-made.
Nothing was from a store. He went and had it done, right?
Yeah, he come in and sit down with it right there. We sit right down the table and say, okay, that drawer out right on the table. I want it just like that. Matter of fact, make me 2 or 3 of them.
That's right.
And I want this color and this color.
I brought a cape to show you.
Okay, yeah.
A client of ours, this guy's name is Clem. He went to a Dick Clark auction and possibly bought one of your dad's capes at this auction for $20,000. You're the man that every night would come up to him, put that cape around his shoulders, and you did it every night.
That's right.
You're the man that's going to know if this is the thing that you've touched and put it around this legend's arms.
No doubt about it.
So, do you mind if I show you?
Not at all.
Can I borrow a mic stand?
You can borrow a mic stand.
All righty, then. Danny was James Brown's best friend. He spent his entire life with James everywhere he went. If this cape is real, Danny's gonna know, and his word is gonna be a very crucial part of this investigation. Now, in the world of memorabilia, collectibles, and antiques, people are always trying to make copies of things. They're always trying to reproduce things to take advantage of people and make money off people. You want to touch it?
Yeah, man.
Is it possible that this could be a reproduction?
Hello, Clem.
Good to see you.
How are you? I've got some news.
Hope it's good news.
Well, it's definitely news. Today I'm meeting with Clem to give him my conclusion on that James Brown cape. Let's put it up here, shall we?
Today is a very exciting day for me. I'm going to find out the authenticity of the cape of James Brown, which I purchased 2 weeks before he passed away.
Now, remind me, if this turns out to be the real deal and you sell it, what are you going to do with the money?
So I'll put it up for auction, and the money I get, I'm going to start a business doing fundraisers with R&B music for kids that need a helping hand. You just give it to people who need it. And I think that's what it's all about. It wasn't about the music, it was about the message in the music. And keep it going.
These things are a difficult one to take on as an investigation, purely because certainly popmobilia and rockmobilia has just gone crazy. And also technology, you know, we're so lucky to have the digital age and the internet, but at the same time, for the faker, it's a golden time, because he can easily find images of something that James Brown would have worn and almost use that technology to create something that's almost perfect. It's traveled around an awful lot. So the team took it to Don Rhodes. He is the expert at the Augusta Museum of History. And also he wrote a book about James Brown as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now what we wanted to try and get from him was this connection with Dick Clark. And he confirmed that they were close friends. And what Don also had was some images of James Brown in a cape that was almost identical to this. The only big difference being it was a completely different colour. Now, I'm sure Danny Ray's a name you know. Now, he's the guy that really looked after James Brown on stage from 1962 right up until his death. There he is.
Oh, yeah. Small little guy.
And do you recognise the lady?
No.
OK, and that's James Brown's daughter. Who better to know James Brown than his daughter and the man that spent pretty much all his life with him? They gave us exactly what we needed to be able to make that final decision based on everything that we had. So there's only one conclusion we can come to after all that evidence has been put together. And that this really was James Brown's cape.
That's what I wanted to hear. That makes me feel real good. When Curtis told me that the cape was real, it not only gave me good satisfaction, that opened up the doors so I can go further on with my life with a smile on my face. I can't believe all the research you did.
You have to, though. There's no other way.
How you found the guy that put the cape on him, and then they found the guy that he was the announcer before he went on stage, which I saw. When I say 100, probably 100 times I saw him do it.
He knows this. So there it is. Maybe $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 sitting there. And the real deal.
Well, thank you so much.
No, it's been fabulous. And it's been great meeting you as well. Today I'm meeting with Max, and I'm going to be giving him my final conclusion on this Les Paul guitar. Max.
Curtis, hi.
Come on
Nice
in.
to see you. It's been harrowing and nerve-wracking. I believe that it is worth a lot, but until they've done all their scientific studies, that's when we'll ultimately know, and I'm on pins and needles.
Always when there's a fortune on the line with these things, I always make sure that we do everything we can. All we ever try and find out is the truth. So something that could be a new piece of history kind of leaves us all a little bit anxious to find out exactly.
You mean like I feel right now?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. The first thing we did, we took your guitar to Norman, who's seen thousands of Les Pauls.
Right.
You know, and he identified that there'd been some modifications, that this is customized indeed. And the mother of pearl inlay, that's something that we were very keen to pick up on.
Indeed.
That fingerprint. So we bought one a jeweler.
Right.
Now, there's particular flaws, obviously. Some of it seemed to match up. But you notice there were what he considered to be differences. But the reality of it is, in the right light, that mother of pearl's right. It's exactly the one in the picture.
Okay, that's good to hear. Having you say that, I respect you, and I know you know what you're doing. That's just great.
Well, it's a good start, isn't it?
It sure is.
We took this to Tom, who worked with Les for 4 decades. He pointed out the same things that Norman had with the mother of pearl, the way it was refretted, and he even took one of these pickups off to identify that this was indeed sent to Les from Gibson. I'm happy to say I've come to what I consider to be an airtight conclusion with this. This is definitely the guitar that was owned by Les Paul. Everything matches completely. That's for sure. And you paid $7,000 for it.
A little more than that, but...
What isn't good news? There's nothing conclusive at all that I've found out that this guitar is any more special than the ones that were sold at Julian's auctions. Les was given a number of guitars.
Indeed.
And according to the sources we've spoken to, it was used for the promotion of the book.
Indeed, on the cover.
Yeah.
Right.
But the Les Paul Foundation say that it isn't really the Les Paul that Les Paul played. His weapon of choice wasn't this. From a value point of view, there appears to be no evidence that it's worth any more than you paid for it. There's no evidence it was any more special than all the other Gibsons that were given to him. And even though this was used for the publicity, that doesn't appear to change its monetary value. So it isn't $500,000.
Well, I'd strongly disagree with you. I buy and sell and trade guitars for 25 years. You're telling me it's not special. Frankly, none of the guitars that Les Paul were special. Coffee didn't come out of them, laser beams didn't shoot out of them, unicorns didn't fly out when you played. They're guitars. So when you say that this isn't a special guitar...
This was not a special guitar given to him for any purpose. The Les Paul Foundation...
They don't have any, they're not collectors. They're accountants. They wouldn't know a value of a guitar if it hit them right over the head.
I suggest auction houses, though, have a pretty good idea about value.
Often they do, and often they don't. You admit that this guitar, through forensic science, is the guitar on the cover of his book.
Yes.
You have no idea what guitars are worth.
Is that a fact?
That is a fact. I do this for a living, and the people I hang around with do this for a living. And so to say that this guitar is worth no more than I paid for it, that's just rubbish. It's frankly vindictive. Show me the other guitar that was on the cover of Les's one and only biography. By that very standard, it is special. You went on and on and on that how could you be the one that found it amongst all these experts? Well, guess what, Curtis? I am the only one that found it, and I'm vindicated there 100%.
All I'm trying to do is deliver you the facts that I've learned.
Curtis, you're full of...
Is that what it is?
You're pompous ass and you're full of...
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
We're gonna get into it big time. I bet you didn't sign up for this. You just think I'm some toadstool that fell off a turnip truck. You and me are gonna go at it like you wouldn't believe. This is bull. I am angry. Not good. And we're done. Okay. Wow. You got a lawsuit on your hands. You just f***ed up. You just f***ed the wrong guy. I'm gonna take you guys down, and this is gonna be all over the news.
This is bull. All you have to say is congratulations, we found out it's real, good luck with the marketing of it, and what are you gonna do when I get my appraisal from an independent, proper appraisal? Not for some English television whore? He doesn't have a clue